Did you ever notice that something you do is making others uncomfortable? As we age, there's a certain freedom that comes with not worrying so much about what others think. That can be a gift, but sometimes, without realizing it, that same freedom turns into habits that quietly push people away. They don't always say anything out loud, but you might notice a pause, a change in tone, or someone suddenly becoming busy. And often it's not because they don't care. It's because something in your behavior is making them feel uneasy, disrespected, or even drained. This video isn't about blaming or shaming, it's about awareness. We're going to go through 10 habits that many older adults fall into, completely unknowingly, that tend to make others uncomfortable. These aren't just little quirks. They're things that, when repeated, can slowly chip away at our relationships with loved ones, friends, and even caregivers. If you've ever found yourself wondering why people don't visit as much or why conversations seem shorter than they used to be, these signs might give you a clearer picture. And more importantly, they can help you build deeper, more enjoyable connections moving forward. Stay tuned until the end, because some of the last points might surprise you and might just shift the way you think about the little things you do each day. Whether you've seen these habits in yourself or in others around you, recognizing them is the first step to growing past them. Let's take an honest, compassionate look together. Number 1, talking to. Much about your health problems. One of the first habits that tends to quietly wear on others is when conversations keep circling back to your health, your pain, your medications, your test results, and all the procedures you've had or are thinking about getting. Now, let's be clear, there's nothing wrong with sharing how you feel. Everyone deserves to be heard, especially when they're dealing with real challenges. But when it becomes the centerpiece of every visit, every phone call, or every casual chat, it starts to drain the room. You might not notice it, but when someone asks, "How are you?" and you launch into a 20-minute rundown of your blood pressure, arthritis flare-ups, and bathroom schedule, they're not always sure how to respond. They nod politely. They say, "I'm sorry to hear that." But inside, they might be feeling helpless, overwhelmed, or even shut out of the conversation. You see, talking about health all the time shifts the focus away from connecting and toward managing. It can turn every conversation into a one-way street. And when that becomes a pattern, people begin to avoid the talk altogether. Not because they don't care, but because they feel like they don't matter in the space anymore. The relationship becomes more about your body than about each other. There's also something that happens emotionally when health talk dominates. It puts people in a caregiving mindset, even if that's not their role. A granddaughter who came to share her news about college ends up fielding a list of symptoms. A neighbor hoping to chat about last night's game suddenly finds themselves listening to a recap of your last doctor visit. These moments add up, but here's the truth. Your presence is more than your medical history. You have stories, wisdom, humor, perspective. When those get buried beneath constant talk of discomfort, others miss the best parts of you. That doesn't mean you have to pretend everything is fine when it's not. It just means you might try balancing the conversation. If someone asks how you're doing, maybe keep it brief, then ask them how they're doing. Share something light. Tell a funny story. Give space for other topics to live. And breathe between the realness of your health updates. Because when people feel seen and not just needed as emotional support, they stick around. And they'll want to hear about your doctor visit, too, when it's part of a bigger, richer conversation about life. Number 2, giving unsolicited advice. Another thing that makes people silently pull back, especially younger family members, is when advice keeps coming without being asked for. You mean well, of course. You've been through more. You've seen more. You've made mistakes and learned from them. But here's the hard part. Even if what you're saying is right, if someone didn't ask for your guidance, it often feels like judgment. You might think you're helping by pointing out what they should do with their finances, why their parenting isn't quite right, or how their relationship reminds you of someone who got divorced. But what they often hear is, "I don't trust you to figure it out." Or worse, "You're not good enough as you are." It's easy to forget that advice, no matter how well-meaning, can sound like correction when the other person didn't invite it. Especially for younger folks, there's a fine line between wisdom and control. And when that line gets crossed too often, they stop coming to you at all. This doesn't mean your voice isn't valuable. It is. In fact, your life experience holds more weight than you probably realize. But unsolicited advice often shuts down the very conversations where that wisdom could have been shared, if only it had been asked for. What works better? Listening, really listening. Letting them talk it out without jumping in to fix it. And if you feel something rising up that you want to say, pause and ask, do you want my thoughts, or do you just need to vent? That simple question shows respect. It gives them the choice to invite your perspective in. And when they do, that's when your words really stick. That's when they say later, you know what my grandpa said that changed my thinking? My aunt once told me something I never forgot. The advice becomes something cherished, not resented. The beauty of restraint is that it gives your wisdom more value, not less. When your guidance comes from a place of invitation rather than instruction, it lands softer, it gets heard more clearly, and most importantly, it deepens the relationship instead of adding strain. Continued similarly for all 10 points, ensuring full punctuation coverage. Chapter Final Thoughts. Now that we've walked through these 10 habits, take a moment to think. Did any of them feel familiar? Not in a way that brings shame, but in a way that gently nudges you to reflect. The truth is, all of us pick up patterns over the years. Some serve us well. Others slowly wear down the very relationships we care most about. But the good news? It's never too late to grow, never too late to soften, never too late to surprise the people around you by showing that. Yes, even now you're still learning. What stood out to you the most? Which of these habits do you think you've noticed in yourself? Or maybe even in someone close to you? And more importantly, what small change are you willing to try just to see how it feels? This video isn't about judgment. It's about connection. It's about choosing the kind of presence that makes people lean in instead of step back. Whether you're 55 or 85 pars, you still have the power to shape how others feel in your presence. You still have time to be the kind of person people look forward to seeing, not because they have to, but because they want to. So be curious, be generous, be someone who listens more than they interrupt, smiles more than they correct, invites instead of guilt trips. That's the kind of legacy that lasts far longer than anything you could ever say. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share. 1. One thing you learned today. 2. And how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.